have finally gotten our wait before we begin. You might want to adjust your audio volume and turn it down just a wee bit. I'm so goddamn excited. I'm probably going to peek in the red a lot in this video. But anyway, there has been a promotional trailer for all of the content that will be hitting HBO in 2019. And there are a few bits of gems that are sprinkled in with a whole bunch of recycled Game of Thrones Season 7 footage. Let's begin. Oh, buddy. Before we get started, go ahead and make sure you're subscribed, and then please slap a like on this video. The like goal is going to be 420. Also, make sure you have your notifications turned on because we are getting ever so close to Game of Thrones Season 8, and I'm here to keep you entertained throughout this long night. Before we talk about the few hidden gems, I want to talk about the confirmed Season 8 footage. Now, at about a minute and 20-some seconds into the video, we are shown what appears to be a heavily bearded Jon Snow, and he's hugged by Sansa. Now immediately she's looking down and then she looks up and it appears as though she's giving someone the most evilest eye that's likely ever been tossed in Winterfell. Two things that I want to discuss first. The first thing being that Jon Snow's beard hair is a lot thicker than it was in Season 7. So this is one of the very first things that I think confirms that this is Season 8 footage. Now of course this could just be another version or some footage that was left out of Season 7 rather, but with Sansa's hair looking very similar to the way it did in this scene right here in the very last episode of Season 7 where they're standing on that famous Winterfell walkway and they're discussing the future of House Stark, her hair looks very similar to how it is in this potentially new footage for Game of Thrones Season 8. Another thing that we have to pay attention to in these teaser trailers is the way that they line up this footage. Right, so at 1 minute and 11 seconds, we see Sansa giving the hug to Jon Snow. She's looking down, then she looks up and gives the evil eye to someone. Trust me, I freeze framed it about 150 million different times to try to make out the figure in Sansa's eye to see who it is she's tossing these hate daggers at. But I was unsuccessful in doing so. I will say that it looks a bit white and blurry, so there is a strong possibility that she's tossing this dagger to my queen, Daenerys. And if that's the case, well, it's going to be returned with a little bit of dragon fire. But anyway, carrying on here. Right as Jon is receiving this hug from Sansa, we're shown, it like flips to a completely different show, which I did not pay attention to the name of, but the actor is Bill Hader, and he's punching the shit out of this wall. Right as they say that, right as he does this, rather, Sansa, when it's on her, giving that evil eye to someone, the lyrics are playing in the background of some mysterious song, which I don't also know about, but they say, this is what I live for. So they're showing that Sansa lives for hate, for anger. So she's definitely tossing this dagger at somebody. If this is the case, and this footage is confirmed from Season 8, this would mean that Jon Snow and Daenerys arrive back in Winterfell most likely early on in the season. I don't want to take the major risk of saying, yeah, this is from episode 1, because it's most likely not. If this is new footage from Game of Thrones Season 8, this can be from anywhere throughout, I'd say, the first 3 episodes of the season. They've been known to drop major scenes that happen later on in seasons in early trailers, especially in these early promo trailers. And just sort of touching on back of what I said earlier about Sansa's hair, I do want to mention that in the scenes that she has with Jon, remember, he never returns to Winterfell after he leaves in episode 2. So the scenes that he does have with Sansa, although brief, there is a scene where he kisses her on the forehead. But in this scene, if you'll notice, Sansa's hair is not how it is in this new promo trailer. She did not start doing her hair like Cersei, or we didn't notice her start doing it like Cersei until she became the Lady of Winterfell. Aside from the fact that that scene with Jon and Sansa that happened early on in Season 7, aside from that not taking place in this same location, also, if you'll notice the battlements behind where Jon Snow is walking past, those look relatively completed. And if you remember, early on in Season 7, this was not the case. They were still completely rebuilding from the Battle of the Bastards and still setting up for winter. So, with snow falling, as much snow that's accumulated in the background, and with these new battlements completely restored, I think it's safe to say that this is from Game of Thrones Season 8. But like Phil DeFranco says, this is not just my opinion. Y'all need to let me know what you think down below in the comment section. Do you think I'm getting ahead of myself? Do you think my analysis was spot on in Sansa's hair and Jon Snow's thickened beard? It could actually be, since this is shot with like a darker lens, or it's basically very low quality that we're giving it. This was uploaded to Twitter, so you can't upload in 1080p when you're doing such a thing. But it could be that since it's a lower quality, it appears as though Jon Snow's hair is darker, so therefore one would think that his hair is longer. I don't know. You guys let me know what y'all think down below in the comment section. Okay, so for the next part of the video, we're going to continue talking about that trailer. But first, before we begin, go ahead and toss on your lovely, wonderful, handy-dandy tinfoil caps. And let's begin. Speaking of beginning there, the trailer actually starts out with Daenerys, my queen, one day, potentially future wife, starts out by saying, "Shall we begin?" Now this is, of course, from Season 7. This is one of her favorite taglines. But the trailer begins with Daenerys, and she's at Dragonstone. The trailer ends with Jaime Lannister, and he's on the Field of Fire, the loot train, the Field of Fire 2.0, but the loot train from Season 7. I do know that this shot of Jaime is definitely from Season 7. I believe it was Episode 4 when this loot train attack initially happened. But one thing that is not, after Jaime looks around, realizes all the devastation, the camera doesn't exactly zoom out and go out of focus like that. This doesn't ever really occur in all of Game of Thrones. Now there could be a few shots, but it never gets this distorted, and then it lingers to the point where you can almost make out shoulders, and then at some point during this, like I said, tinfoil caps required, but it almost looks like there's a crown on this mysterious figure that is completely out of focus that appears after Jaime Lannister disappears from the screen. Now, is this actually a thing? I don't know. I did initially think that it could just be burned ashes or maybe a charred wagon in the background that we're just watching out of focus, but the tinfoil cap allows me to think that this could actually be the Night King, and maybe this is new footage entirely, and of course Jaime's going to have the same armor, because when is he going to get time to make new armor? But he could be witnessing potentially a battle or a skirmish between Cersei and Daenerys, which would explain why there's not as much snow around. There could potentially be a meetup. Maybe Jon Snow and Daenerys hear that Cersei's marching troops up their way, so they want to go and meet them further down south to sort of catch them off guard. Who knows? But if this is actually from Game of Thrones Season 8, and this is just basically a second version of the Field of Fire 2.0, except for this time, Daenerys may not be as lucky. If this is the case, then this figure standing behind Jaime could in fact be the Night King himself. Maybe he shows up and just ruins everyone's plans. Now, this next part is going to contain some minor spoilers, so go ahead and click out of the video right now if you don't want to know anything about the filming process and anything that is leaked from Game of Thrones Season 8. As far as what I just mentioned about maybe the Night King showing up during this battle between Daenerys and Jon's forces versus Cersei's forces, potentially the Golden Company, there is footage, or pictures rather, which I'm showing you right here, that have been leaked from the filming of Game of Thrones Season 8 that shows all of these forces intermingling together, and this is supposedly going to take place some way mid-season. So if Jon and Daenerys do make it back in, let's say, the second episode, I think it's safe to say that they're not going to make it back in the first episode, or if they do, it's going to be at the very end of the episode, and this shot with Jon and Sansa could be the very last scenes from episode 1 of Season 7. But I imagine it opening up with a bang, and something like the arrival of Daenerys and Jon Snow, and, you know, the interactions with Sansa, that's more like a politics move, and it'd be smarter to put that at the beginning of the second episode just to sort of wind us into the season slowly. In my opinion, the very first episode needs to be nothing but battles. Zombies, dragons, undead, boobies, vaginas, maybe some of Kit Harington's butt. All of that stuff needs to be jammed into the first episode, because remember, there's only 6, and this is the very last season. But if that's not the case, in this footage, just like most of these quick glimpses of characters like Davos, you know, there's one of the Night King, there's one of Bran. All of these are just shots from Season 7, so maybe this shot with Jaime could be from that, and possibly the only new footage we get is this scene with Jon and Sansa. That could possibly be the case. Of course, let me know what you think. Now, the last thing I want to talk about before I wrap this video up is that if this is from Season 8, and Sansa's giving this evil eye to this snowy white figure that I see in her eyes as being Daenerys, if Sansa's giving these daggers to Daenerys, then that means that they might have a rocky relationship. I don't really know if it's completely out of place for Sansa to have something or hold some ill will against Jon for going and bedding with a foreign queen. He is the acting king of the north. They are in rebellion against the crown. The smartest thing to do would not be going making strange alliances with women who fly around on dragons. Of course, Sansa's never met Daenerys, so she doesn't love her as much as we all do, but this could be a rocky start, and I potentially did not see the quarrel between Arya and Sansa last season, so a quarrel between Daenerys and Sansa, although it is a little bit, you know, predictable, I don't really know what to make of that. So what do you guys think? Do you think Daenerys' receival of, yeah, that's right, we make up words all the time in my videos, but do you think these this hate that Sansa's tossing potentially Daenerys' way, do you think it's going to be met with open arms and maybe she'll be open-minded because her and Jon have been having nonstop boat sex, so maybe she'll be like, nah, chill out, sister-in-law? Or do you think she's going to return her with Dragonfire and be just as cold as Sansa? I personally think that it's going to be a very interesting scene in Game of Thrones Season 8. Alright, I want to thank you all so much for watching. If you could please slap a like on this video. The like goal is going to be 421. Also, please remember to subscribe, turn your notifications on, so that way you get alerted every time I drop a Game of Thrones video throughout this long night. Remember, we only have a few months now before the real game begins. My name's Mark, and this has been Sir Hunt's super special shout out to every single member of my Patreon family. Reviews.